was gonna say, you know how we do it here. We're gonna get into the spring pressers. Obviously, we're gonna talk about basketball, the men's program, the women's program. Brad, you brought up talking about baseball. We'll do Brad on ball later in the show as well. But like I say, every week we cut our teeth
Brad
doing
on
Sigs
bases.
Inside Indiana. Oh,
Brad on bases.
yeah, like kind of like that. We're workshopping it, but
Yeah.
like I said, we cut our teeth
It's
doing
working
Sigs
better.
Inside, an Indiana football podcast. You know, we're going to be talking about Indiana football. So let's get into the smoke. First of all, shout out to the Daily Hoosier. Every time I listen to a press conference, I'm going to their YouTube page first. It's that they have it with clear audio. They have all the guys. You can hear the questions. You can hear the answers. Yeah, so shout out to the Daily Hoosier. But we'll start with EJ Williams. In last week's round of pressers, we got EJ, we got Omar Cooper, and we got Tyreek Tucker. So the first thing they asked EJ, they asked him about his decision to come back and how that process went. And he said it actually started when he was on a visit to a different school and he got a phone call from SIG.
When was this? When was this visit? Was it, I imagine, after the year?
Yeah, it was when the portal opened. But he said he didn't want to enter the portal initially, but SIG's rule with if you redshirt, you're not with the team. He kind of like he had to do what was best for him. But when SIG called, he's like it was kind of like a like there was no decision. He was coming back.
Love it. So I guess I have more questions about like the less on the decision and more so on Signetti's rule, where if you're redshirting, you're away from the team. I guess that's probably for non-freshmen.
Yeah, my guess would be if you're not 100% in, you're out, which is the way he's presented it the entire time. That's what he told us last year. And he told us those guys weren't going to be with the team anymore. But I mean, like you could hear it throughout the press conference. Like they asked EJ, like, what was it like watching last year? And he was like, it was mixed emotions because like, those are his guys. Like he competed with them, went through summer with them, like has known a lot of them, whether they came in and he met them when they transferred in, but a lot of those guys had also been in the room. So he's like pumped for his guys, but at the same time, it's like gut wrenching when you're like, you wish you can contribute and be a part of that, and you're just on the sideline.
Yeah, it was a weird situation because he had Miles Cross, he had obviously Surratt and Cooper were there, and Key and Miles Price were getting a lot of tick, and he was kind of the odd man out, especially when they were trying to mix in McCulley at the same time, and they ended up both opting to redshirt the year. I think that was a mutual discussion you have typically after the fourth game, and just kind of seeing where you're at. And then EJ opted to redshirt as a so it has to be a non-freshman rule. There's just no, because like Jaja Boyd was with the team all last year, right? And he redshirted. So
yeah, that would be my guess. Is like they're not having the guys who they brought in knowing they're not playing year one. Those guys are probably like around the team, working out, practicing, things like that. Like I said, it's probably more of if you're looking at the transfer portal, it's like that's inherent, like it's a distraction. So like, yeah, that's the best thing for you to do personally, but the best thing for the football team is to, okay, like if you're over there, be over there. But if you're in, so be in.
Yeah. So I guess since he was technically in the portal, then he's away from the team. I don't know if it's like a red shirt only thing. So like if he was redshirting with the full intent of coming back, obviously in his own best interest, he should hit the portal in that situation. So I don't think there's like any ill will either way at any point. I think it was just really just Signetti's looking out for his guys, and he's having a candid conversation with the EJ. Like, do you want to take this year off? You're probably not going to get a ton of tick, but we'd love to have you. And he's like, I'm going to see where my options are. If I redshirt this year, I have a year of eligibility, and he weighed his options. Now it looks like he's going to be outside wide receiver 3 on this team, just based on all the clips we're seeing. That seems like what everyone's talking about with EJ recently, is that it seems like he's going to have a very big role in this team. And I think I've alluded to, like, just think Miles Cross last year and the amount of opportunity he was able to get. Like, EJ Williams will be getting those opportunities going into next year. So excited to see how he takes up on it.
Yeah, well, he said it was a good feeling seeing his guys make plays. Like he named Cross, he named Price, and obviously Coop and Surratt. And they asked him how he spent last year, and he said a lot of it was at home with family, but he was watching Indiana football. So you could tell he was like still kind of locked into the program, even though he wasn't with the program. And then he kind of talked about they tried to get him a couple of different times to talk about how difficult it was dealing with an injury, but his like his headspace is so impressive, and he said he's in a really good headspace, but he just when he's on the field, he doesn't think about playing and getting hurt, and when he's injured, he's trying to take it like day by day and do the things necessary to get back on the field. Um, but he looks like clips are clips, but he looks really explosive. He's making plays with like going up and high pointing footballs. He's making plays with one hand. It doesn't look like you can really cover the guy right now. And when like Mendoza is talking about NFL guys in the room, you think obviously Cooper, you think Surratt, but like EJ Williams is that prototype. Like,
He looks like it. He definitely looks the
yeah.
part.
And if you go back to some of his 2023 film, and I know there wasn't a ton of it, but like same thing with Omar Cooper is like you watch those guys in cut ups and like they're making elite plays like on footballs that aren't easy to be caught. And so like the skills in there, obviously. And like EJ Williams, Clemson recruit, played in the college football playoff, saw a national championship team. Like this isn't a dude that just like wasn't able to unlock his athletic gifts. Like he's had a little bit of trouble staying on the field, but like he's every bit as talented as you can be at the receiver position.
Yeah, I'm excited. And like one thing about the clips, like obviously they're clips and we know they're clips. They're just highlights at the end of the day. But the idea that you can have like a 3-minute long video of high level highlights from a couple of practices shows a lot about, what a team could look like on the football field. And not, guaranteeing, but we've already alluded to it. Like we consider Indiana national contenders. They were in the playoff last year. Year 2 jump. It's a very normal thing that happens, especially with a high level coach like Signetti and with the amount of talent that he's been able to replace in the portal, EJ Williams included. You got to think like it's just exciting to see very early on. But yeah, let's keep it on EJ right now.
Well, I was going to say too, because you talked about him potentially being outside wide receiver 3, and we've talked about Mekhi Jackson probably
Yeah.
occupying that starting slot role early. But EJ said they asked him what makes the offense so good. He said multiple guys that can stretch the field. They have versatility. He also mentioned Omar playing the slot, Elijah playing the slot, and himself playing the slot as well.
Just out of
And then he
necessity.
said,
I mean, yeah, they're not
he
like
said
typical slot guys, but maybe they don't need to run slot routes out of the slot position. They can run, they're not necessarily built to run like the spanks and the little, these are like the double move in the middle of the field type routes, the jerks and the spanks they usually have. That's just the lingo my team used for, jerk was, it had a good funny hand signal for it. And but yeah,
this is a children's show, Brad. Come
yeah,
on.
it had a good hand signal route for sure. But yeah, I mean they're not typically like the prototypes you'd see running that route, but I think Cooper definitely has the build to maybe run that route. I think Surratt, if he wants to, put stuff on tape, for NFL scouts, it's definitely a good opportunity for him. And just out of necessity, obviously they're probably going to get a prototype slot out of the portal. You imagine in spring if they find one good enough that meets their needs and their standards and things like that. But if they don't find that guy, might as well get those reps in now and have to put in outside guys in the slot out of necessity. And that's just going to open up the door for guys like Davion Chandler and Charlie Becker to kind of make a name for themselves. I've seen some good LeBron Bond and Miles Kendrick clips as well throughout the
A
time.
lot of the
And they're probably
receivers have
getting a
been
ton of
making
opportunity. I mean, we've talked about these rooms in year 2 are just so full of depth and so full of talent. It's just a matter of, at the top, there's proven talent there. And it's really about like, will these unproven guys maybe start stepping up and finding roles so we can maybe kind of rely on them and not have to go in the portal as much going into every offseason is kind of how you want to look at these rooms moving forward. They're not, it's not anywhere near where it was going into last spring. I'll tell you, in terms of just overall depth and talent that's there.
I agree. And actually, Tyreek Tucker, we'll get to his presser in a little bit. And I really enjoyed listening to him speak, but he echoed that they're much further ahead this spring than they were compared to last spring, which is exciting to hear.
It should be.
Finishing up,
I'd hope so. I'd hope they would.
They asked EJ about Fernando Mendoza. He said he's got zip and he's really mobile. This isn't the first time we've heard mobile and zip with Mendoza. Just again, confirming further what we see with our eyes. It's a chance for this kid to be really, really good. And then
Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck.
if if you aren't like, if you don't care about watching press conferences and you just like want quotes, and I'm stunned this quote wasn't everywhere, but please go watch the last question they asked EJ Williams, because they asked him why he wanted to stay. And you know what his response was?
No, I didn't listen just like everyone else.
He said, "You know, when you watch guys work that you're going to have a great season." He then went on to say it parallels a lot of what he was seeing from those early Clemson teams, and that they have the chance to do something really special. I legit got, I'm not kidding. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about the quote.
I mean, like I said, I say this all the time. It's like a lot of these coaches reaffirm what we already kind of knew, and like this is like one of the more reaffirming guys. Like this is a guy that has been to the playoff on another team before that, has been in a championship level culture before he got to Indiana. One of the few guys in that, locker room that have done that. Him and probably Tyler Morris are probably, and Coogan are probably the only. I mean, Coogan didn't. Notre Dame hasn't won one, so like, I mean, he's close. I digress, but like, getting those types of quotes from those types of players, the EJ Williams, the Zen Mikowskis, the Cougans. I mean, it just reaffirms everything we've thought, and it just only should get you more excited going into next year. Year 2 jump. Expect us. It's coming. Mark Rogers. A lot of people, voice college football probably don't believe yet, but I think obviously year 2 is always the prove it year. No matter, even if they went undefeated or if they went 5-7 last year, it's really like, okay, what's year 2 going to look like? And that's where we're really going to see where we're at.